People that say, oh, I'm 5 minutes, I'll be 5 minutes. And they're not. But in networking events, just remember to listen. If there's one thing I can't stand in this world, it's being late. Do not take off your jacket. Okay? Manners cost nothing. That's what my mum used to tell me, and probably my dad, probably my grandma, probably my granddad as well. And we hear it all the time, right? Manners cost nothing. Manners are a massive part of everyday life. And for salespeople, I actually think that that's way more important. For salespeople, manners can make or break a sale. And today, you're going to discover why. Welcome to the latest episode of the Sales Circle podcast. I'm your host, Rob Spence, an internationally renowned sales trainer, sales author, sales coach, and the managing director of Paragon Sales Solutions. And today we're going to be talking about manners and why manners matter when it comes to sales. Now, for me, I was brought up fairly well, I'd like to think. And my mum always used to say to me, manners cost nothing. Say your pleases, say your thank yous, and all sorts. And for years, I took that as a given. I thought everyone was the same. I thought we all had the same upbringing, the same parenting. But my gosh, how wrong was I? And the reason I'm bringing this to your attention, the reason we're going to be talking about manners today is because I strongly believe that as salespeople, we need to have great manners, both on the, dare I say, the simple side, so the pleases, the thank yous, the common courtesy, but sometimes conversationally, sometimes within networking events. And there's kind of two reasons potentially why this is coming to the forefront of my mind, and two reasons why we're going to talk about it today in this episode of the Sales Circle. Number one, I've just finished a great book I'm going to share with you as part of our book recommendation of the week. And that book is Just Good Manners by William Hanson. We're going to be talking about this, but this, put simply, is an etiquette book telling you how to be a gentleman, how to be a gentle lady, how to be a person with good manners. What's he say? A quintessential guide to courtesy, charm, grace, and decorum. And there were so many things in there. There was things that, I thought were a given and that I like to think I do. There were some things in there I thought, oh, okay, that makes sense. So we're going to be talking about the book later on, but I thought it's very important to talk about manners in today's podcast. But then secondly, I was at a networking event yesterday, and it's a very different networking event because you see an array of people all doing different things, and it's not just a sit-down meal, it's not just a stand around and talk, it's like both. So trying to get manners, oh my gosh, so many things that like icks. Manner icks, shall we call them, that I picked up on. Now, I'm no etiquette coach, but even like minor things, and you think, my goodness, what are we doing here? So we're going to talk about manners in today's podcast. And actually, we'll give you some hints, tips, advice, real life stories, and I'll give you my biggest icks when it comes to manners, or bad manners when it comes to salespeople. But if you're new to the podcast, welcome. We don't always talk about manners. We talk about everything sales related. So anything to do with closing techniques, objection handling, how to make more sales, how to make less sales, maybe, I don't know, how to overcome objections, how to open, how to cold call. Put simply, everything you need to be an incredible salesperson, this podcast is for you. And of course, if you're not new to the podcast, then I want to say two things. One, first of all, massive thank you for tuning in. I see the viewing and the listening figures every week, and sometimes I get a bit sad. I check them every day, and our viewing figures are really picking up at the minute. So if you are listening to this, if you're watching this, then thank you. But just do me a favor. Please, all of you, do me a favor, wherever you are tuning into this, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, maybe you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the follow button, and give us a 5-star rating. That helps us to reinvest in the podcast, get on great, exciting guests, and give you some more things. So allow me, if I may, to talk openly about manners. As I mentioned at the start of this podcast, we were talking a little bit about how I went to a networking event and I witnessed some really bad manners. And look, it's not even just at that networking event. Every day, every single hour of every day, I recognize bad manners. Now, look, I'm no etiquette coach, who we'll talk about later on, but there's some things that you think you need to do better. You need to do better. I think as salespeople, we've got a really hard job in the fact that we've got to get people to know us. We've got to get people to like us, trust us, build relationships. And sometimes, we as humans, we pick up on things, whether it be subliminally or whether it be consciously, and they can help us like judge people and judge characters really quickly. And I'm going to talk about some of my icks that salespeople could or could not sort of do to enhance their manners and enhance their etiquette. And I'm hoping you can take those away. And look, we're all guilty of some things, right? And I think, sometimes you've just got to be reminded. And sometimes there might be things where you go, actually, I'd never thought about that. So, I mean, it's all well and good me saying these things, but what do other people say? I think one of the key things is what I just said at the start of the podcast there. We buy from people we know, like, and trust. And actually, when we do our research into what influences people, what gets people to buy from us, some of it will come down to know, liking, and trusting. Some of it will come down to relationships. Some of it will come down to rapport. And if we're not displaying good manners, whether they be big or small, it sets us off in a bad light. But I did find a little survey here. It did say 51% of customers would do more business with a company where they are treated with respect and courtesy. And they would tell others about the company. So like nearly half of the customers want to do business with people that respect them and are courteous and are nice and are kind and build relationships. 37% of those people surveyed would take their business elsewhere if confronted with rude or disrespectful service. And I think the latter statistic there did sound a bit harsh. But I mean, look, if you're listening to this podcast, I'm going to argue that you're not going to be rude. If you're listening to this podcast, watching it, look, I've got no doubt you are trying to do better and you're trying to enhance your business. You're trying to make more sales, right? So I don't think that any of you listening to this will purposely be rude. I think sometimes some of us are unintentionally rude. And allow me to share a story. I will share some of my etiquette icks in a moment. Maybe this could become like a new feature on the podcast. I don't know. But I was at a networking event yesterday, and there was a guy there. I won't name names. The guy there has been there a few times, and there's a couple of things that really griped me about him, and it actually is a shame because, and I'll tell you, there was three things that really griped me about this person, and it's a shame. I made very bad first impressions on him because of how he interacted and how he acted, and displayed bad manners. I was then sat next to him during this event. And when you go, oh no, I'm going to be sat next to this guy that I don't like. And over time, I was able to kind of warm up to him and open up to him. But those first impressions count, right? We know that we're going to make first impressions sometimes within 30 seconds, sometimes within 7 seconds, depending on what study or statistic you're reading. So I'd made this really negative first impression. That first impression changed. And it was such a shame. There was something that he did later on that really not upset me, but it was silly. So first things first, right? He was wearing a hat indoors, okay? I'm sorry to say, grown men, okay, do not, unless it's a, you're down the races and you're wearing what they call, is it a morning hat? Is it a morning hat? I always forget the term. Unless it's that kind of thing, you don't need to wear a baseball cap, no matter what time of day it is. I mean, actually, when you read any good etiquette book, you're supposed to take your cap off at 6 p.m. That's the legal time you're supposed to take off a cap. Did you know? But wearing caps inside, wearing hats inside, big no-no. Of course, when you're outside, it makes perfect sense. You get inside, you remove the cap. So he was wearing a cap, which, was it a cap or a beanie? It was one of the two anyway, but either way, I was like, oh my God, here we go. And then we're mingling and we've all got these little name badges on our side here. And mine says my name and my company, Paragon Sales Solutions. And we briefly said hello, and he looked, it was like, oh, well, that doesn't tell me anything. And I was like, well, all right, give us a chance. Like, you don't always need your business name, like what you do within your business name, right? But secondly, it's not what he said, it's how he said it. If he said, oh, Paragon Sales Solutions, that sounds fascinating. Could you please tell me more about that? And maybe not so posh. You could have said, oh, Paragon Sales Solutions. So what do you guys do? Huh? Well, that doesn't tell me anything, does it? Like, I was like, who the fuck's this guy? And to be honest, I wanted to wallop him a little bit. But it put me off, put that whole relationship, that first impression on the wrong foot. So talking to a guy wearing a hat, he's then sort of been, in my opinion, quite rude. And then, like I say, as we get onto the table, he opens up a little bit more. I quite like him. I like what he's saying, and quite a good conversationalist. There were times when other people were talking around the table and he'd overtalk them, or they'd have their chance to say and he'd overtalk them, which we'll probably come on to in a second. But overall, it was good. And when we go back to that second statistic, look, 37% of people would take their business elsewhere if they were confronted with rude or disrespectful service. I don't feel that gentleman sort of woke up that morning and went, I'm going to be rude today. And I don't think in that situation he said, I'm going to be rude to his name badge. Rah. Sometimes we can be rude without knowing that we're being rude. And I think that's sometimes where we've just got to be so careful. We've just got to be courteous and so on. So look, I tell you what, let me, if I may, share some of my biggest sales and business hits. So these are just some of my big things that I've picked up on in the business world, in the sales world, things that salespeople need to fix. If you've got a pen and paper ready, write these down. As long as you're not doing these or you're fixing them, then you're going to be onto a winner. Look, number one, lateness. If there's one thing I can't stand in this world, it's being late. There is no need to be late these days. If you are late, we should be letting people know as to why we're late. Okay? Look, lateness normally comes down to disorganization, misorganization, or a lack of respect for whoever it is you are meeting. And look, being late is a big no-no in my book. Of course, force majeure, there are things that happen in this world that will overtake that, trains breaking down, buses breaking down, car breaking down, or whatever. And in that instance, we should be calling, we should be messaging. And sort of like a secondary ick to all of that, I hate people that say, oh, I'll be 5 minutes. And they're not. For me, I would much rather, and I'm sure you're the same, I would much rather, and I'm sure you're screaming at like your stereo right now going, oh my God, that sounds like me. Like, surely you'd prefer someone say, look, I'm running a bit late. I'm going to be 17 minutes, or I'm going to be 20 minutes. I'm going to be half an hour. I'm so sorry. I'll make it up to you, right? Than saying, I'm going to be 5 minutes when you know you're not going to be 5 minutes. Look, please, if you are late, just be honest. Just be honest as to where we are. Because if someone says to me, I'm going to be 5 minutes away, I'll probably stop whatever it is I'm doing. I'll literally wait. I won't be curtain twitching and looking behind that curtain, but I'll sit and wait. If someone's going to be 20 minutes away, half an hour away, I'm like, okay, fine. What I can do, I can crack on with some stuff I've got planned for later on today, and I'll be here ready for you when you're waiting. So ick number one, lateness. Little ick number two is people who leave crockery and glasses, right? As a salesperson, right, whenever you are given a drink, whenever you're given a beverage, and you then go to leave that meeting room, okay, please, for the love of God, do something with the glass thereafter, or at least make a gesture, okay? And I see it all the time, people should be saying, thanks so much for the drink, thanks so much for the meeting, would you like me to do anything with the glass? Can I take that into the kitchen for you? If they say, yeah, absolutely, bring it through here, we'll pop it next to the sink or whatever, that's absolutely fine. Not once in my, years, decades of selling and being in business, has someone said, yeah, can you just do me a favor, wash it up, please? Normally, 9 times out of 10, they say, don't worry, leave it there, I'll sort it. But that recognition is absolutely crucial. I think one of my other biggest icks, and I mentioned it in that story earlier on, is people over-talking others, especially at a networking event, and not other people allowing. And if I kind of give a bit of context to that, we're around a round table, and and the concept is, as well as some open networking, you get the chance on that table to go around and you listen for about 2 minutes. It's not strict, but for 2 minutes you get to listen to that one singular individual. And, this one lady, bless her, she'd been waiting and waiting and waiting. It was near the end of the event, because we just overran. And, she said, oh, I work for this solicitor's firm. And this guy, I know them. You guys are looking after my lease. And hopefully you kind of think in that instance, okay, well, that's the conversation done. There's nothing else you need to say here, mate. Just shut up. And he went, yeah, thingamajig. Yeah, it's really good. Oh, the lease is taking so long. The property's owned by this. And literally for 3 minutes, this guy went off on a random tangent about his lease. He's taken the power from that lady who was selling her wares from talking and taking it upon himself to talk about a lease that no one ever cared about. So like when you are at networking events, don't, and I think this extends out just in general, but in networking events, just remember to listen. Your job isn't to always talk. Your job isn't always to talk over everyone. Just be willing to listen. Just be willing to observe. Be willing to wait your turn. I do feel on the flip side of that, and maybe number 4, I had this yesterday. don't be afraid to converse back. You know, a lady approached me earlier on during the open network. She's like, oh, you know, my name's such and such. I do this. Oh, great. And when there was like little awkward silences, I was like, oh, so what do you do here? What kind of clients do you look out for? What's your background? How old are the kids? It was very one-sided, but more like I was asking her questions, and I'd give her some chances to like open then up into me, and she never once asked me a question. So I left that conversation. She didn't know who I was, what my company was. Now, some of you out there should be saying, Rob, you should have taken control of that conversation. You should have said, oh, well, allow me to talk a little bit more about myself. But once again, I think it comes down to the way in which I was brought up, the manners in which I was kind of brought up in, and so on. Oh my gosh, a big business thing. I just grabbed the book because I was like, I'm running out here. I think I've only shared 3 or 4. And I was like, what inspiration can I have, right? This is now for like round tables, and in particular, black tie. Fellas, this one goes to you, fellas, okay? Females, listen, because if this is your husband, your boyfriend, you date for the night, right? I need you to kick ass for me here. Fellas, okay. At a black tie event, okay, where you're wearing a tuxedo and you're around a lovely round table and you're having some good food, good company. I don't care whether it's a charity night, whether it's a boxing night, whether it's an awards night. Do not take off your jacket, okay? I cannot say that clear enough. Do not take off your jacket. I don't care how hot it is in there, right? If it's a good venue, they'll have the aircon on. It'll be ready for you to be nice, chilled, and relaxed. I've been in those hot rooms, right, where all you want to do is take off your jacket because it's roasting, right? Don't. For the love of God, don't. Some people will say don't take off your jacket until you've had dinner, and until I think like main course is okay, and then dessert you can take it off, but you know, look, till after dinner, right? Some say that. William Hanson, the etiquette coach, he says the dinner jacket should only be removed when you're back in your bedroom, okay? And I have to agree with that. You know, I look across these black tie events, these black tie rooms, and there are people just taking off their jackets, and it's always fellas, it's always men. It's always men who, sorry to say, and I kind of put myself in this category, normally a bit chubby, right? And they've not been out ever. They've never been to a black tie event. They sit down and they go, oh, it's hot. Jacket off. No, jacket on until you get home. Another little lick, and then we'll kind of move on, because I could probably go on for a while. I will have a little flick through the book, actually. But I think one of the key things to remember when we're talking about good manners and having good manners is to not call people out for bad manners in front of other people, or not just calling people out for bad manners, for calling people out how not to act in certain situations. Okay, I was at another round table dinner. It was not formal in the slightest, just a round table dinner. And, you know, if you've been to that kind of thing, the servers will all kind of normally, you know, stand around the table all at once, food down, and they go, right? I think it's serve over the left, take from the right, isn't it, I think? And, you know, this colleague of mine who I was with, when he saw the server, he turned around, oh, thank you. And someone on the table went, oh, you're not supposed to do that. You've never been in a fine restaurant before, have you? You're supposed to wait. And now in that situation, I believe the bad etiquette isn't upon my colleague who didn't really know what to do or how to act. The bad etiquette actually came from, oh my God, I've got another one. Oh my God. The other bad etiquette, right, comes from, or the worst bad etiquette comes from the person that's called it out. If you see someone doing something, but they're not doing it in a rude way, but clearly they're just a bit unsure, just leave it. You don't have to call it out. If you feel it's a big thing, just tell them afterwards, hey, listen, you know, when that happened, just so you know, next time, they'll do it automatically. You don't have to shout across the table. Final ick. Okay, this is another one related to dinner tables, okay? If you're pouring yourself a water, pour other people the water first, okay? Once again, maybe that is an etiquette thing, I don't know. And if you are, you know, William Hanson, if you're checking this out, let me know. If we need to crop this as a short, actually, and tag him in. William Hanson, am I correct in saying if you are pouring yourself a glass of water at a round table at a black tie event, you should pour everyone else a glass first, or at least those in your nearest vicinity, okay? That's my belief. You absolutely shouldn't just grab the water and go blah, 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 blah. And I think we could probably extend that out to wine as well, couldn't we? If there's any table wine, pour, you know, be a gentleman, be a gentle lady, pour, and then allow yourself some. William Hanson, am I correct? Am I wrong? I don't know. Listen, I could sit here and talk about my biggest icks non-stop. But these are just some of the things. Now, once again, we're going to take a little break. And then we'll talk about why they're important when it comes to sales. So look, if you're new to the podcast, you're probably going, what on earth is this guy talking about? He thinks he's William Hanson 2.0. But it's not about that. You know, look, we as salespeople, we as business owners, we've got to be courteous. We've got to be kind. We've got to be caring. We've got to develop relationships. We've got to develop rapport. Common courtesy, good manners will do that. We heard a statistic earlier, 51% of customers will do business with a company where they're treated with respect and courtesy. We've got some other statistics here. You know, this one says polite and responsive communication is vital for building trust with clients and partners. And look, negative word of mouth can have a lasting impact. The problem is, if we go back to that individual who I mentioned earlier, I had a very bad first impression of him. Very bad first impression. And although the impression improved, not fully, would I recommend him to anyone? No, is the honest answer. Would I want to do business with him? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's annoying because there's some work that he could do that I could refer into him, but I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want my clients or people known to me be a part of that. So salespeople, just remember your manners, okay? Remember your pleases, your thank yous, your being on time, being smartly dressed, being appreciative of other people's time. And I think just think about everyone else. I think courtesy and manners comes from just thinking a little selflessly. Like, let's think about, you know, the black tie event. You've ruined the photographer's shots. If everyone's got their jackets off and looking like, I was going to say swabs, but looking like scrotes, and they've got like black tie, you know, their ties undone around their head. Woohoo, look at me. First night out, first beer. It ruins the photographer shots for the night. It ruins then the event organizer shots and everything, you know. And then if you're not pouring other people a drink, it just looks very greedy and very selfish. I'm sure you're absolutely shit in bed. Like, be selfless, be the giver, be the provider, and everything comes full fruition. But I'd love to hear your business six. Maybe this could be a whole new section of the sales circle. If I've missed anything off, maybe you've recognized anything that you think, oh God, that gives me the ick. It's horrible. Write in, let me know. Email thesalescircleofficial@gmail.com or leave a comment on any of my social media platforms and I'll bring it up maybe in the next Rob's Business Ick section. Quick word from our sponsors now. We are proud to be partnered with Monday.com CRM. If you are in need of a really intuitive CRM system that's responsive, great for your teams, with lots of AI and automation, then Monday.com CRM is the right thing for you. I will leave a link below that gives you some free access and I've no doubt some discounts. But we use it here internally at Paragon Sales Solutions and we've implemented it within teams that we work for and represent. Monday.com are probably known for their project management side of things, their automation and the ability to keep on track of projects. And we do recommend it for that as well. But their CRM system just takes all the good stuff that they do and puts it all into one all-encompassing CRM. So maybe if you're struggling to keep on top of your prospects, struggling to understand the proposal process of the people you're trying to do business with. Maybe you're chasing invoices from customers and clients. Maybe you need to get your colleague to chase a client that you've not spoken to in a while. Perhaps you just need somewhere to store all of your database in one easy-to-use cloud-based system. Monday.com CRM is the one for you. There'll be a link below the show, whether you're listening to it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, whether you're watching on YouTube. Hit the link below, you'll get some free access and give it a try. Before we quickly do some listeners' questions, I've got to give a shout out to William Hanson's book, Just Good Manners. This is our recommended book of the week, and a link to buy your own copy will be available down below as well. Now, if you don't know William Hanson, he is the UK's leading etiquette expert, alongside being a co-host of Help I Sexted My Boss podcast with Jordan North, a fantastic podcast. Of course, listen to this one first, then go ahead and listen to it. But not only is William Hanson a great laugh, does some great videos. There's a viral video of him teaching you how to eat peas. A fork should never be upturned. Fork should always be down, just so you know. I think. But it's a great book. It's very tongue-in-cheek at times, a bit cheeky, a bit naughty, lots of innuendos. But do you know what? I actually learned a lot. It does teach you some of the basics. It talks to you a bit about royal etiquette, talks about sort of dress codes and formal dress codes. Oh my gosh, I just thought about another ick as well, actually. And goes into a bit of depth of just, you know, how we should eat, how we should drink, what type glasses we should serve as well. So it's a great book. I think it only came out last year, potentially. Great read. Didn't take me too long to ingest. Grab your copy, hit the link below. And like I say, although we are not an etiquette podcast, I think salespeople and business people should have good etiquette. So grab yourself a copy as soon as you can. So finally, just before we wrap up, a couple of listeners' questions that I printed off here. Don't forget, you can send in your questions to thesalescircleofficial@gmail.com or just message into the podcast. This first one is from Anonymous. How can I maintain professionalism when dealing with a rude client? Look, it's very hard. Emotion comes into it. I always recommend trying to, if you can, take a pause before you respond, right? If we respond too quick, sometimes things can come across negative. I think as well, sometimes that response should come either physically, face-to-face, or over the telephone, because sometimes emotions can be null and void in email. Sometimes, we can't get across the tonality, the volume, or the emotion we're trying to portray in what we're saying in an email, in a letter, or in a text, or a WhatsApp. So if we can we pick up the phone? But look, stay open. Make sure you listen first, communicate, show active listening. And the key thing to anything like that, just try and find a solution to the problem. Don't make things personal. Don't make things emotive. Just try and find a solution to the problem. This is a great question. Is it necessary to send thank you notes after every meeting? I don't think it's mandatory. I don't think you have to. I think it's wonderful. One of the key things any business owner, any buyer is short of is time. I think time is massively valuable, and anyone willing to give any one of their time, we should be saying thank you. From a courtesy and a manners point of view, absolutely we should. From a touch point of view, it works really well as well. We've got to remember that people won't buy from us unless they've had 7 to 12 touch points, give or take. So why don't we use that thank you as part of the touch point system? We don't have to send it right away, but maybe the next day, maybe a couple of days later. Do you know what I mean? I think it goes a long way. And what's the harm it's going to do? They read it and go, oh, okay, fine, delete. They go, oh, that was really, really nice, really sweet. So like I say, if you've got any other questions, send them in. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll answer them at the end of any podcast. Or sometimes I collate them and put them out into one full episode. So if you've got any sales questions of any shape, any size, doesn't have to be about manners, doesn't have to be about etiquette, it can be about anything sales or business related, send them in. I'll do my best to answer them. And that about wraps us up for another episode of the Sales Circle podcast. Between you and I've not sat down to record on these in a while. I try and bulk record wherever I can and try and get, 3 or 4 episodes or 3 or 4 weeks worth of content recorded in 1 week. Then it just frees up some of my headspace. So I've not recorded in 4 or 5 weeks, and I've missed it. I've genuinely missed it. I've loved being in front of the camera, loved being behind the microphone. I hope you've taken at least one thing out from today's session. That's what these podcasts are all about. Whether you are listening on the way to your next business meeting, whether you're watching whilst you're sending out some proposals, I hope it's given you some motivation, some stuff to think about, some things to consider, and some things to help you to, look, let's not beat around the bush, sell more. As I said, these come out every single Thursday without fail. If I'm struggling for time, you'll even just get an audio. If I can't get the time to do a video, you will just get an audio. So do hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button, and why not send it into your team? Why not send it into your colleagues? Maybe send it to someone who's a bit rude and bad-mannered, maybe. Who knows? And we've got some great episodes coming up. We've got AI. We're going to do one on AI again. We've got some more questions. We've got some other theories to talk about as well, so stay tuned. But just to follow up with my gratitude point, a thank you to you. If you've got this far, what we now, 28, 29 minutes in, a massive thank you to you for staying tuned. I know your time is valuable, and I really appreciate you watching. Big shout out, as always, to Jack or Megan, who's edited this episode up. Thank you so much for watching. And until next week, all the best. Nice. And that's it for another episode of the Sales Circle. Make sure you hit that follow button, join us over on social media, and we'll see you next week.